Hey, how's it going? I'm going to do a frequently asked questions. Now, I'll tell you why I'm going to do this, because I get a lot of emails from people because I do a podcast about record labels. People think that I know things, which I don't. So this is a mistake to be watching this video for you, but no, I'm joking. I want to go through some of the really frequently asked questions that I see, and you can leave a comment and let me know if you have any questions I haven't covered, or you can always email me podcast@otherrecordlabels.com. So what I want to do is generally when I get an email from someone, there's usually a little question in it, which I like, because sometimes they get really specific, or sometimes they have like a hesitation or a fear about starting a record label, and they will ask me a question, and they're often the same. Like there's really like 10 questions that are pretty much basic questions. And so I try to cover them on the podcast and on the YouTube channel as much as possible, and on our site, otherrecordlabels.com, which, by the way, if you are thinking about starting a record label, or you have already started a record label and you have some questions about specific topics, go to otherrecordlabels.com/toolkit, where you can download our free toolkit that is jam-packed with things like a workbook to help you get organized when you're starting your label, a checklist. There's also a sample recording contract in there. There's like a bio writing template that you can use. There's so much stuff. Just grab it. There's some coupons for other services for you to use. So go to otherrecordlabels.com/toolkit. Okay, let's dive in. First question is, how much does it cost to start a label? So this is something that like I have seen on Google quite a lot, and I did a video about it a while ago. But here's the very short answer is nothing. Like honestly, you could whip together a website with Wix for free. You could, what else could you do? I mean, you could make your own logo. You don't even need a website. You could sign your friend's band without a contract, just like a handshake agreement. There's so many things that you could do to get started for $0, but I don't recommend it. I don't think it's the right way to go. And here's what I would say about money. What I would say about money is just make sure that you're very aware of where the money is going and that what you're spending the money on. Don't be like super frivolous. There's a great quote by the Buddha. I mean, I don't know if the Buddha said it. Nobody knows if the Buddha said it, but it's like, if the strings of a sitar are too loose, then they won't make a sound. If they're too tight, then they'll snap. But if they're just the right amount of tension, then they make a beautiful sound, right? So this is the same thing kind of with our finances, is that we shouldn't just be like spending money like crazy, because that's going to put you out of business and it's going to make it really hard for you to make that money back. However, if you don't spend any money at all, then that is also a problem. So there's this like very healthy, moderate amount where I would say anything over $50, you really need to be super careful, and maybe even bring in like a friend, like a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a spouse or someone like a parent or someone who's not even in the music industry, and just say, hey, I'm thinking about investing $1,000 in this. Let me tell you the pros and cons, and then you kind of help me decide. And so just anything over $50, really think about, do I really need this? And sometimes you think, I need this because I've seen other labels have it. But I think a good, kind of metric to use is it going to cost me money if I don't have this? If I don't buy this thing, is it actually going to cost me money? And so, there's some things like sometimes when we pay for publicists, or there's some inevitable costs that we can't avoid, like distribution costs. But sometimes when we pay for things that free us up to do other things, and it kind of doubles the effort of the record label. So how much does it cost to start a record label? I mean, really, it could be anywhere between $100 to $10,000. But I would say this question, don't let this question hold you up. Don't let this question prevent you from starting a record label, because you're like, do I have enough money? Am I investing enough money? I think that's where it becomes a problem, is if it stops you. You get what I'm saying. Okay. How much should a label take from an artist? Okay, so this is a very easy answer. It was a harder thing for me to answer years ago because I was unsure. When I got started, I took 35% and I gave 65% to my artist because I had the imposter syndrome and I didn't want to be criticized about taking too much money. So I gave them more. However, every record label that I've interacted with, I mean, I would say 99% of the record labels, like hundreds and almost thousands of labels that I've spoken to, do a 50-50 deal. And usually it's a 50-50 profit share. So what that means is, let's say you agree to a 50-50 share with the artist, and you, as an individual or as a business or as a record label, invests $500 into hiring a music publicist. Well, all of the revenue that comes in from selling the CDs or the vinyl or just selling MP3s or the Bandcamp or the streaming revenue, all of that money that comes in, you get to keep until that $500 that you invested in a publicist is paid back. And then everything after that is profit, and you split it with the artist 50-50. So 50-50 is and you can also do it in another way where you split it 50-50 right at the beginning, even before you're paid back your expenses, which is a nice thing to do so that the artist pockets some money. I kind of like that, actually, but both are appropriate. But ask around and talk to the artist. Make sure you both are comfortable. Sometimes an artist says, I want you to take more so that you work harder, or because I feel like you're doing more for me. And sometimes a label says, I'm going to take 50% of your physical sales, but I don't know how to do streaming very well, so I'm going to give you 100% of your streaming. Or sometimes a record label knows how to do playlisting really well, and they say, I'm going to take 60% or 50% of your streaming, but you can sell your own tapes and CDs and vinyl at shows, and I won't take any cut of that. You know what I mean? So 50-50 is normal. Next one. Do artists need a label? I addressed this in 2 big episodes, so I'll provide a link to them. So I won't get into this too much. The short answer, again, is no. Artists don't need labels, certainly not today. They did 100 years ago because you couldn't get on the radio. You couldn't manufacture. Well, I talked about this in another episode, but you can't. 100 years ago, the only record labels were the ones who were actually making the records themselves and making the machines to play them on. So an artist 100% needed a record label. But even 40, 50 years ago, it was so cost prohibitive to get into a recording studio. And then once you had a CD, then it was like, I can't even get it into a record store. Well, today, that's all different. So you don't need a record label. An artist doesn't need a record label. They can record on their laptop and then they can self-release, whatever. But I think that the relationship between a record label and an artist is incredible. It's beautiful. I think you can double the efforts. I think when you are, as a record label, are a fan of the artist, then you can promote that artist and you can work just as hard, if not harder, than the artist themselves. So if an artist is self-releasing, well, all of a sudden, it's like now they have 2 versions of themselves. They have themselves, and then they have you, the record label. So I think it doubles the efforts of the people working to promote the album or the single. The other thing a record label provides is community. And I talked about this in another episode, so I won't go too deep into it, but there's other artists on the roster and you and other team members on your record label who can come behind the artist to encourage them and to keep them accountable and to provoke them to be more prolific and to inspire them. And so I think community is really cool. And then, of course, there's just some resources like you as a record label, like you've uploaded music before to Spotify, so you know how it's done, whereas some artists don't know how to do that. So there's some things, some experience that you have. So artists don't need labels, but there are some cool things that you can present to the artist if you're trying to sign or trying to convince an artist to sign with you. Okay. What's next? What digital distributor should I use? Big question all over the internet. Indie artists, my friends like text me and say, which digital distributor? So that means like if you want to get your music on Spotify, like another question I get all the time is, can you just upload your music directly to Spotify and bypass DistroKid or CD Baby or those third-party people? No, you can't do that. There was a short time where you could do it to Spotify as an experiment. I think it was invite only, and they got rid of it. But you can't do it. And one of the advantages of using these aggregators is what CD Baby and DistroKid, The Orchard, Amuse, AWOL, there's literally millions of them. Literally. Well, not literally. There's thousands of them. But the advantage of them is that they have an ingestion process where they take your artwork, your track details, your MP3s, well, they're WAV files, and then they distribute it across all of the streaming platforms all over the world. And I guarantee there's hundreds you don't even know about. So the idea of you uploading it by yourself to Spotify, it's just, even if it was an option, I wouldn't recommend it because there's so many platforms all over the world that you'd be missing. So, and I mean, to upload one album to all those platforms without some sort of system, even if you could do it, it would take you too long. It's just ridiculous. So you have to use one of these aggregators. Which one do you choose? There's a lot of websites, a lot of podcasts, a lot of YouTube videos that will recommend different ones. So I'm just going to give you my experience. I've used CD Baby for 15 years. I've used DistroKid before for an artist. It was fine. Recently, I've switched over to 3Tone, which is a company in the UK. And I really like them, and I have a personal rep with them, and it's fun. I like them. So here's what should be your determining factor. First of all, don't overthink this. Like, nothing is permanent. None of these platforms are permanent. You upload your music, you can keep the barcode and you can keep the ISRCs, and you don't need to worry about, like, if you want to change your mind, you can pull your music down and upload it again. Spotify is even really good with, if you use the same ISRC codes, that your stats and your streaming numbers will transfer over if you delete them from one distributor and put them in. So don't stress about this. Like, some people think about this like this is like heart surgery or something. Like, just relax. It's not a big deal. You can change it down the road. All of the platforms are pretty much the same. At the time of recording this, there are more platforms popping up every day. I hear of, like, I bet you there's going to be like Home Depot digital distributing happening soon. I'm serious. Like, I hear of like a new company that will do it as like an extra service. I've heard of Amuse, which is a company that does it for free, but then they have some other things you have to pay for. Anyway, so many of them are popping up. Just don't overthink it. But here's what you want to look for. The cost can be done in two ways. One, it could be an upfront fee, like CD Baby is like $35 plus a barcode. And then there's no annual fee. The music stays up there forever. You don't have to pay them any more money. You don't have to log into your account. You don't have to get any streams. It stays up there until like a meteor comes and destroys us all. And even then, it might still be up there. And the other thing is, but usually with those people is they charge you a percentage of sales. So I think in CD Baby, it's like 9%, which, some people have a problem with. And if you're making like $10,000 to $100,000 a year, then that can really add up. That means that they're taking like $900 to $9,000 from you. And that might not be wise for you. Having said that, I don't love the annual fees because some artists aren't making enough to cover their annual fees and they end up like stop paying and then the music gets taken down. And I just don't love that. I find that sad for music fans that whenever your music is taken off. So those are the financial reasons that some people look for, and I think you just need to figure out what's best for you. One of the things to look into, and okay, this goes to the second reason, and this is the features. When you're looking for one of these platforms, you have to look at their features because sometimes it's free, or sometimes it's really cheap, or it's like a super cheap annual fee, and but they don't let you pick a release date, or they don't let you put a copyright in the tag, or there's certain like cool features that you don't get to do, and so I don't think that works for me. Like I kind of like I'll give away a percentage, especially if the company is working to pitch my songs to playlists on my behalf, which is some companies do that when you get to a certain level or if they believe in your music, and that's why they take a cut from it. Oh my gosh, I can't answer this question for you. It's such a big question, but here's the biggest answer is just don't freak out about it. Like, don't worry. Pick whatever you want. Put them in a hat and pick one. Somebody's going to say this is the best, and then another person's going to say this is the best. I've used one for 15 years, made tons of money, probably paid them tons of money. I don't care. I mean, it's worked well. We've done well. I've never had an issue. Some people say I hate this company. Other people say I use this company, and other people say I hate that company. I've heard bad things about all of the companies, to be honest, and good things. So next question. Do I need to hire a lawyer? I need to hire a lawyer to answer that question. So I can't really tell you. Do you need to hire a lawyer? I think it's good. Listen, we have some lawyers that are like friends of the other record labels community. If you go to otherrecordlabels.com/directory, then there's two lawyers specifically that we've worked with and that we recommend that you can reach out to them and work with them on your own. I think it's kind of good to have like, you don't have to pay a lawyer on retainer, but I think it's good to have like just to have a lawyer this email and to know their name and to say, okay, I've got this contract from a movie studio who wants to use one of our songs. Can you look it over for me? Find a lawyer, and the lawyers in our on our directory are very affordable and very fair. And I think it's good to, like, if you pay $100, $250 to have somebody look over something for you or draft something up, it's a tough pill to swallow, like $250 to get a contract or $300 to get a contract made up. But it's peace of mind, and it's a fixed cost, right? It's not a variable cost. It's a fixed cost. It's something you pay once, and then it's peace of mind. It's done. So I don't hire a lawyer, but find a lawyer. Do I need to register my business first? I hate these questions because to me, it's like, if you feel comfortable getting a lawyer and registering your business before you even decide if you want to stick with running a record label, or even before you design a logo, then that's fine. Then do that. That's to me, this is like based on someone's personality. You don't need to. I know people who run record labels and have been running record labels for 10 years and they've never registered their business. They paid their income taxes through their personal income tax. So any money the label makes, they pay through their own income tax, that they don't have a registered business. They don't have a bank account. They don't have a checkbook for their business. They don't have their trademarked. They're just kind of running it as a risk. That's because they're kind of doing it out of the passion of the music. I know other people who get that all sorted out at the beginning. They have a business plan. They have an investor. They trademark their logo. They bought the domain. They've registered everything. And that just kind of fits their personality. Like, they're super organized and very organized. I respect that. I respect both, honestly. I like flying by the seat of my pants. I like kind of finding artists and getting really excited. And then maybe year 2, doing things a little bit more formal, whatever. I don't think there's any. I mean, I think the most right way to do it is to register everything, but that's very expensive. And then all of a sudden you've decided to pivot and you're going to do something a little differently, and you've wasted some of that money. I don't know. You don't need to register your business right away. I would say do some of the fun stuff first. Get the branding together, get some of the website together, talk with artists. But again, overarching thing, don't let any of these questions stop you from starting a record label. And I think a lot of people are looking for reasons to stall and to procrastinate and to be busy with trademarking and registering and blah, blah, blah. I think, I think just really get going, start making mistakes. It's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. That's just my personality. Your personality might be the complete opposite, and that's fine. Can I sign an artist without needing a contract or without a contract? Well, you're not signing them. Can you work with an artist with a handshake agreement? You legally can, but it puts you at risk, puts them at risk. There are great labels who don't do contracts because they think it's too corporate, it's too impersonal. It's not. It defies the meaning of art. And so I know great labels who are making tons of money and doing really well respected. The artists are happy, the label's happy, and they don't have a contract. So that's totally up for them. So obviously it can be done without a contract. But like I said, if you have an attorney, a music attorney who's just really nice and affordable, then you should be able to. We have like a template that's super basic on our website. Otherrecordlabels.com/toolkit that you can download. But if you you can get an attorney to make you a contract that is something that you can reuse for all of your artists, that's custom for your labels. So why not? Why not? Now, then the artist might feel pressured to find their own lawyer. So, which again, they should maybe do. Honestly, they should. Like I've had to do that recently myself, and it's a good idea. Do you need a website? Does your label need a website? Again, no, you do not need a website. I know record labels that their only website is Bandcamp, which is free, and that's great. I know record labels who use Instagram and Bandcamp, or Instagram, Twitter, Bandcamp, maybe Facebook. That's totally great. I like websites. I think they're cheap. Squarespace is what I use. Go to otherrecordlabels.com/Squarespace for a 10% off code. I like Squarespace because they're elegant. They're beautiful. Wix is similar. They're like, what's the cheapest? $15 a month. I keep my websites super simple. I read a quote this morning. I kid you not. It's this morning. It's like, it's harder to be simple. It's easy to be complicated. And it's hard work, but get a website and keep it really clean and simple, and point your fans to just the most important things, which I believe is a Spotify playlist or a Bandcamp compilation, so that with one click, a fan who discovers your website can hear your artist's music. That's what's most important. When I go to a record label's website, I want to hear music as quickly as possible. I would rather not like watch a music video or click through to someone's album. If a label has a Spotify playlist or a Bandcamp compilation album, and even if it's embedded, even better in the website, so I can just listen to and get a sense of what this label's about, that's really good. But really, you don't need a website. You should have a website, and you should keep it very simple. Consolidate your menu options. Don't have like 20 menu options. Just have like one or two. Because remember, people are going to come to your website and they're really only going to do one thing. And they're probably going to only stay for 3 to 5 seconds. This is science. So what do you want them to do when they come? You can only pick one thing. Seriously. That's why I like to send them to Bandcamp, to a compilation, or to a Spotify playlist. What if a bigger label wants to sign my artist? Okay, this is a question I've seen once or twice. And sometimes, and sometimes labels feel insecure that they can't offer an artist as much as another label, that kind of thing. There have been some episodes on this podcast, on my podcast, other record labels, where labels have like kind of graduated an artist. And I think there's something beautiful about small independent labels. Nurturing an artist, maybe even discovering an artist, whatever that means, and then having them graduate, move on to a mid-size indie label or a major indie, and then maybe even moving on to a major. That's totally a natural progression. I think that's beautiful. I think that if an artist wants out of your contract, then that probably means they weren't happy in your relationship, and or it means that there's just a way better option for them somewhere else. And just do what's right for the artist. Like, don't be selfish, be generous, do what's right for the artist. Don't let people walk all over you, but do what's right for the art and for the artist. If you have a lawyer from the very beginning, if you have a contract from the very beginning, this is something that you can talk about with the artist and with your lawyer to get this established before it actually comes to being a problem. Because if once it's a problem, it's going to be very difficult. But if it's something you talk about ahead of time, in fact, when you're meeting your artist before you even sign them to your label, if you go out for coffee with them, why don't you say, what happens? Ask them this question, a hypothetical question, before you're even, you have an agreement. Say, what happens when a big label comes along and wants to sign you? What should we do? And then maybe the artist can kind of come up with some suggestions. And it's great if the major label pays you a fee, or if you get to keep that artist's original releases so that you can make money off of their original releases when they get more popular. That's kind of a cool thing too. So, excuse me, obviously we want to do what's fair for you, but I just say be right by the artist. And there is a kind of a natural progression where an artist starts on a small label and graduates. But if they stay with you forever, bravo. Like, obviously you've done something right. If they turn down big deals because they want to stay with you, that's cool. Okay, do I need to register my label for a PRO? Okay, so a PRO is a performing rights organization. In America, it's ASCAP and BMI. There's 2 other ones, but they're invite only. In Canada, it's SOCAN. In UK, it's PRS. And every country has their own. Artists, songwriters need to, I'm getting what's that? Oh, okay, I'm getting a notice on my camera. I've got to stop soon. Songwriters need to register with the PRO, but labels don't. If a label wrote a song, if you helped an artist, then you as an individual needs to register with the PRO, but you can't as a label register with the PRO. A separate company needs to register with the PRO, but yours shouldn't be involved with their publishing unless you have a publishing company. So if you just sign an artist, you're a regular record label, you're just releasing their songs, you do not need to sign up with the PRO. And it's very difficult to do. You have to apply to become a publisher. It's not as easy to apply as a publisher or as a record label than it is to apply as an artist. But every country's different. But no, you really don't need to at the beginning. Last question. I have a recording studio. Can I start a record label too? Yes. This is great. I've heard this with record stores. I've heard this with publicists. I've heard this with churches. I've heard this with anybody who has an existing business and then wants to start a record label arm. I think that's so cool. There's universities who have started record labels. There is so many cool little organizations that want to start a record label arm, and they do that because they already have an audience. They already are working with artists, maybe in some cases. In the case of a record store, they already have music fans coming in there buying records. So why wouldn't you sell them some of your own records? To me, that's a no-brainer. Recording studios will work for an entire year on an album, only to see the artist kind of release it on their own and just have it fizzle out. And that breaks the heart of engineers and producers who work on records. So if you're a recording studio, or if you're just an existing company that has an existing infrastructure, existing resources, existing audience, yes, do it. I hope you found this helpful. Go to otherrecordlabels.com for all of our resources for record labels and lots of questions. If you have more questions, let me know. If I missed something, write it in the comments in this video or send me an email, podcast@otherrecordlabels.com.